And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. The palms down. So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for being here. So we're now, 13 years into this Dharma Bum Temple experiment. Don't tell anyone that the experiment has lasted 13 years. They might shut us down. We do this thing every year with the college group where when they kind of apply to be in the college group, they write a letter saying why they're interested. And then the first night we all gather and we take those letters that they wrote. It's very open-ended. It just says, why do you want to be a part of this? Some of them write 2 sentences, some of them write 3 pages, right? Everywhere in between. And then we take those prior to the first night. We edit them, meaning we just remove names and anything that might kind of obviously identify them. And the first night we get together, we mix them up and we pass them out and we have somebody else read it. And all of these are written very much the same way. I'm struggling, I'm having a hard time fitting in, I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm anxious, I'm lonely, I'm looking for a group of friends, whatever it might be. It's kind of a very intimate, open, pouring of the heart reading or written piece that they share, thinking it's just going to be read by whoever receives it. So it's actually pretty honest, which is kind of nice. Little do they know at the time that it gets read to everybody in the room, which is why we remove their names to, protect the innocent. But what happens is with this, and if there are any college kids and you're about to join, I've totally ruined your experience. With this, what it does is we set the intention that very first night with the college group that you're not here for you. That the person next to you, the person in front of you, the person behind you is struggling just like you are. They're going through the same mess just like you are. They use different words, different experiences, but they're struggling. And what we try to instill in them immediately from day one is that this path and practice is not here for you. The Bodhisattva practice is to help all sentient beings with their suffering. Now, how many of you showed up here today because you want to make sure the person in front of you, behind you, to your left, or to your right is happier and healthier? Anybody? A couple of you have listened to me for the last 10 years, But most of you know, you're here for me, the one and only. This is my morning, this is my time, this is my seat, this is where my shoes go, this is how I need the bathroom, I. And the Buddha said we suffer because of the sense of self, because you think it's all about you. This is the heart of the Buddhist teachings. Is that a little bit direct and harsh and rough? Yes, That's why this path, this practice isn't necessarily for everybody, because it makes you realize that you think the practice and why you're here is for you. And as long as you're suffering, anyone here suffering? All right. If you didn't raise your hand, you're lying. Or you wasted your time completely, right? You're all here. We are all here. I am here because I'm suffering. Now, if we spend the next 40 minutes, the next day, the next week, walking in here day in and day out thinking, I am suffering. I need help. I need this solved. I need this fixed. I have this problem. What are you spending your entire time focused on? Yourself. And what did the Buddha say is the reason you suffer? Because you think you are so important, right? So this is the heart of the teachings. And the purpose of building temples, viharas, places of practice, is to help people understand this teaching, right? That's why we created this space. And so for many reasons, whether it's taking care of the temple or taking care of things in your own life, begin to use these teachings not just here, but outside of there, or outside of here, and in the rest of your life. Because as you go through your day, if you keep thinking it's all about you and you need help, you're going to spend your entire life focused on you. And then you're just like stuck in this vicious cycle. You know, the cycle says, I'm suffering, I need help, I'm suffering, I need help, I'm suffering, I need help. Then your entire life goes by. And there hasn't been any moment where you stopped and said, maybe somebody else needs help. Right? I really, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that that is the heart of the Buddhist teachings. That is the most important teaching. It's not, let's just meditate to deal with stress. It's understanding, why is your stress there? Why is the anger there? Why is the anxiety there? All of that is there, as the Buddha taught us, because you're focused on just you. The meditation won't fix that. We can all meditate here for a little bit and go back outside. And if you, the moment you walk outside this door, immediately go back to thinking, I, then this was of no value. You know? So it's not the reason many people come into meditation or Buddhist practice. There might be somebody here for the first time who's just stressed out and wants to meditate. And you show up and I'm a complete stranger and I'm sitting up here telling you you're selfish. You know? See, she's leaving already. She's just moving seats. Right? I don't throw things, I promise. You don't have to go all the way in the back. Right? But with that in mind, since we are in this place, we have some guidelines set up to try to take care of this to help you practice what it's like to take care of something that has nothing to do with you directly. Right? We've tried this in various forms over 13 years, and we still struggle, but we continue to try. So one of them, please don't have food or drinks in here. Respect the space. Right? If you're thirsty, you can walk outside and get some water. Right? I had somebody say to me that they were staring at the sign that we specifically put there for weeks while they would drink their water. Right? Like, if you have a medical condition and you need water and you're, heat exhaustion, please let me know. Other than that, we can probably survive for 45 minutes without, sipping on your water. Right? We've spent 2+ years creating this space. And every night, a few of us spend so much time cleaning it up after the 500 to 700 people that make a mess in here, See, Mike, it's all your fault. See those? What are those? Those are water stains from cups on a 92-year-old wood floor because somebody wanted water. You know how much time we spent sanding and finishing and how much money people donated to put into the space? A lot, right? So please don't bring food or drinks in here. The bathroom doors, keep them closed. Right? What's that old expression? We don't live in a barn. I never really understood that expression, but that has something to do with closing doors, right? Right? We have the Buddha statue right there. We have a ton of people right here. I hate to break it to you, but when you finish in the bathroom, it doesn't smell so pretty. Close the door, right? So please, when you're done in the bathroom, close the door. The lights, right? Turn them off when you're done in the bathroom. So the Buddha created, we'll meditate eventually, I promise, but this is way more important, right? The Buddha created what's called the Vinaya, the precepts, the code of conduct for his disciples to follow. He didn't sit down one day and make a list of rules. It wasn't some tyrant who said, I'm going to control all these people, and here are 227 to 320 rules for you to follow. He built a community. He observed things in the community that caused conflict, challenges, difficulty, right? Divisiveness, things that were not in harmony with creating a safe space. And so all of the precepts were put into place to address those things, right? And so we see this stuff the same way. You know who has the most problem with guidelines? People have problems with what? Someone knows the word.
Authority.
There we go. Who said it? Tom. Oh, it's funny you said that. It's also fun that it's someone I know. You ever have a problem with authority? Kind of all my life, right? But it's incredible that Tom, who's had trouble with authority his whole life, hate to put you on the spot here, probably does as much, if not more, than anyone at taking care of this space. How much were you suffering when you came into these doors a long time ago? Can't put a number on it. And are you suffering at least a tiny bit less?
Yes.
Good. Thank you for all you do in this space. Thank you for having a problem with authority and recognizing that this space needs to be taken care of and pushing through your challenges and obstacles to following guidelines and just doing that without, question. Now, if I told you to run and jump off a cliff, please have a problem with that authority, right? Shoes in the bathroom. You know how many people have asked me, why do we have to wear shoes in the bathroom? I'm sorry that it takes an extra 20 seconds for you to sit down and put your shoes on, but are public bathroom floors clean? No. If you want to walk barefoot in there, that's up to you. But after you do it, please go outside. Meaning, don't walk barefoot in the bathroom, which isn't clean, and then walk back in here, which is a sacred space, and sit down on the chairs and floors and cushions and drag the nastiness from the bathroom into here, right? Y'all like sitting on pee? No, right? That's why this is there. Like, it's so direct, and you have no idea how much struggle we have with this. And if you're uncomfortable with this talk right now, good. It is supposed to make you uncomfortable. You know who would have hated this talk 15 years ago and probably would have left 5 minutes ago? This guy. And you know who needed it more than anybody? This guy, right? Please put your shoes on when you go into the restroom and then take them off. It's a beautiful moment to just slowly grab your shoes, which I know are on the rack, right? Take your shoes off. If you knock other shoes off, put them back on the rack. Normal, it's a wonderful practice for you, right? All right, I think that's enough for now. That's all the guidelines to be aware of before meditation even starts, right? So we had this on the wall for about a year. It didn't work, and so then we actually put a bullet below it, a second line with the description that hopefully if we explain why we're asking these things, people might do them. I don't have grand hope or expectations of what I'm sharing is going to change too much, but it might impact one or two of you. And to me, that's all I can ever ask for, So we'll start meditation in a moment. We'll close our eyes in a moment. And if you're here for the first time and already pissed off and angry and want to leave, feel free. Just put your shoes on. So the funny thing is, I really didn't have the intention of even talking about this morning. I just sat down, I looked down at this list, and I was like, here we go. So usually better when this stuff isn't planned anyways. So good morning, all. So we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. Oh, come back. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. You're not going to figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Okay? Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is this working? Is this not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. Your mind will wander. I promise. It might even wander to something I said. When it wanders, recognizing it's wandering, recognize you're lost in that thought, and try to come back to the present moment. 10 seconds later, if that, it'll wander again. Bring it back to the present moment. So all we're working on is the recognition of the wandering mind and bringing it back to the present moment. Okay? Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on the cushions, often it helps sliding to the front third, pushing your stomach forward. Shoulders are relaxed. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you're on the benches or chairs, also just trying to sit up straight. I will guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. I'll say things periodically to wake you up or remind you that you're lost in thought. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Gently guide the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Return attention, focus to the breath. keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. The most important, practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, it's quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit, hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than anyone in this room, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for every one of us in this room, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's what we get every single day. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how we respond to everything else that's happening throughout our days. So all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun. Meditation is not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic mess, this isn't going to fix it. This is direct perception into the present moment, so you can begin to understand what you think, what you say, and what you do, and make changes out there. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, we spend so much time wrapped up in trying to control and fix other things and other people and other places. This practice is learning to take care of our mind, our mess, and bringing that into everything else first. Somebody left me a message, and we've been talking a lot the last few weeks about trying to motivate and inspire people to do a better job caring for the place. And they said, people come here very often thinking it's like a vacation. And they're right. When we look at the way Buddhism is rolled out in this country, I always say it's not your fault, right? This country has, in my opinion, kind of, I wouldn't say ruined, but made it extremely, I almost said ruined, made it extremely difficult for us to engage with the heart of Buddhist teachings the way Buddhism is brought into this culture. Anyone ever been to like a day spa or sauna type place? What do you see everywhere when you go to those? Buddhas, right? Anyone ever been to like a nail salon? I know that's cultural as well, but what do you see there? Buddhists, right? Anyone ever been shopping for cereal and come across Zen cereal or enlightened cereal, right? Like we've taken this really beautiful teaching about how to suffer less and we've Americanized it, right? And that's how we got exposed to Buddhist teachings and continue to get exposed to Buddhist teachings. But if you begin to look at like what did the Buddha actually teach, right? It has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It is a very diligent, intense, honest approach at what you do in your life. It's not the escape. Buddhist practice early on, if you're actually working on it and not using it as the escape, will make your life more difficult. Yay, good news. Because I know y'all came here to make your life more difficult, right? How hard is it to be nice to people all day long? How hard is it to be honest with people all day long, including yourself? How hard is it to help others a lot and less focus on yourself? These things are difficult to do. That doesn't sound like vacation to me. That doesn't sound like a day spa, right? That sounds like work. But the important piece is to understand that we are suffering and struggling and being challenged with day-to-day life for various reasons. And those reasons, as the Buddha taught, are because we spend so much of our time wrapped up in greed, wrapped up in anger, and wrapped up in ignorance. Ignorance meaning we think the entire world should operate the way we see it. Now, I'm sure nobody in here thinks the world should run the way you think it should. And we're all open to everybody else's ideas, which is phenomenal. It's wonderful to sit with such a great group, you know? But that's the ignorance, is we go day to day and we think when we're on the freeway at 5 o'clock that every car should be where we want them to be. No one should ever get in front of us. Everybody who's slowing down should move out of our way. You know, every latte we order should be made exactly how we want it. Every class, every instructor, every person should fit the mold that we have labeled and set up for ourselves. Everything has to conform with our views. Day one, and I shared this the other day, but day one when I arrived at the monastery, and this was 14 years ago, the nun said to me, Jeff, whatever you think you know about life, forget all of it. That was the greatest advice I ever got. Because everything I thought I knew about life, you know what that did? It created a lot of suffering, and a lot of struggle, and a lot of challenges. So all that ego, all that pride, all that I'm right stuff that some of us may carry around, try to move past it. Now, if we continue to treat meditation in Buddhist places like vacation, you know, for an hour, great. I truly mean that. I mean, there will always be people that will do all of these things. There will always be a handful of people that will clean all of the mess, will take out the trash, will bring fresh flowers, right? Will vacuum the floors. There will always be a handful or so of people who do that. But those are also going to be the people that are working much harder at cutting through all of their crap. And I've seen it for 20 years. As long as we treat this like vacation, as soon as you walk out this door, your vacation is over. And then what do you think the next 23 hours of your day are going to be like? Not vacation. I couldn't come up with another word. So I think that's enough for me at this moment, at least on that stuff. I had one last thing to share, which I thought was kind of cool, which might have triggered into all of this. Right before we were about to come in, the phone rang, and I answered it just because I thought maybe it was somebody lost trying to get here or something like that. And they said, is this Jeff? And I said, yes. It says, is this the Dharma Bum Temple? I said, yes. That was pretty, I mean, that was like 2 minutes before I was walking in here, so it was a pretty, relatively brief conversation. But the sum of it was, this guy who lives up in Carlsbad had just done a 6-week something in India. And was staying in an ashram with Krishna Das. You don't know who Krishna Das is? Blue Oyster Cult? Mark, you probably know that. No, Blue Oyster Cult. He's the lead singer then, but now he's like this Hindu guru dude, has an ashram in India. I really don't know all that much about him. Other than he asked this person coming back to the States where he could learn about Buddhism. And the person told him to contact Sharon Salzberg. So you don't know Krishna Das, some of you know Sharon Salzberg. All right, more of you. If you don't know her, a phenomenal teacher. Started Insight Meditation Society with Jack Kornfield, Joseph Goldstein back in the 60s in Bari, Massachusetts. The work that those three have done for Buddhism in this country the last 50, 60 years is second to none. It's incredible. And so this guy got to Sharon Salzberg, and Sharon said, Sharon, where you should go to learn about Buddhist practice. And obviously he said he was in San Diego, and she said, go to the Dharma Bum Temple. So I thought it was kind of cool that from like India, Ashram, Krishna Das, to Sharon Salzberg to here. And I'm thinking, I wonder how Sharon would feel if she knew that she was sending people to a place where I can't even motivate them to clean floors or take out trash. I was kind of embarrassed, and I promise I'll close on this thought, but I think these things are humorous to me. Otherwise, we would have thrown in the towel a long time ago, right? Like it's funny, it's sad, it's practice, it's all of that in one, right? But I shared with somebody who uses the downstairs space, and they're one of the leaders down there, and I asked, and I showed them kind of the mess they were making, and they said to me that they were embarrassed, and it was such a beautiful response. There was no defensiveness. Well, it's not mine. It's not this. There was no excuses as to why. There was no questions about, well, how come? It was like, yeah, I'm embarrassed. They said they were embarrassed. They weren't there that night. And they were embarrassed at how the room was being left. And I thought that was a really beautiful response. Because that's kind of how I felt at that moment when, I found out Sharon Salzberg was sending people here. So now I'm done. We'll open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice. Yeah.
So I know you talked about greed, anger, and ignorance. And I was curious as to where fear falls into that spectrum, or if you consider it one of those things.
Yeah.
And the reason I thought about that was, well, a couple of things. One is, in this case, the example of the bathrooms that you were giving, what if people then start doing these things, but out of a fear of incurring your displeasure, for instance, or in my case at work, I feel like I'm always in fear of making a mistake and incurring my manager's displeasure. So yeah.
That's ignorance. Ain't doing it for me. Not my place. Not mine. Fear is ignoring the truth, which is that you have no idea what any outcome is going to be ever. There's a heart to that question that when it comes to the word dana, which is generosity, the Buddha was very clear that monks should not teach generosity until after the monks had been supported, because they didn't want monks to use manipulation to get people to give or do things, right? And so even when I share the guidelines and I try to make humor and light, but very seriousness out of the things I do, right, with these types of things, in my mind, it is done without the intention of trying to guilt or pressure people into doing it, right? It's kind of a weird example to throw it out there right now, but I'll throw it out there anyways because it applies, even though it might have many levels to some people. So years ago at the downtown, or at the Buddha Free location, we always had a little donation box in the corner, right? And as usual, most people don't even know there's a donation box. And one night I was doing a similar talk, and I was going to mention that nobody's even aware of taking care of the place. But I was so concerned that that talk was actually going to lead immediately to people feeling like guilted into going and dropping a little dollar in the donation bowl. So before I did that talk, I moved and got rid of the donation bowl, right? If you feel that type of stuff, that is your layers of fear, of thinking, and being so concerned what others are viewing and labeling and judging you as. That has nothing to do with them. That's your ignorance and thinking that others' views of you actually matter. Let's just play it out and say, you're done and you leave here, and I go, afterwards we're sitting around and I'm like, did you see all those ignorant people who didn't even clean? And we start talking nasty things about you, right? That's our mess, not yours, right? What we say or think, or what anyone says or thinks of you, is meaningless. Your fear, your ignorance is thinking that that stuff actually matters, because you're so worried about what people will think about you. Ignorance. Yeah. So fun to come to a place where we can comfortably be called ignorant and still smile. She's smiling, by the way. Just want to point that out. Yeah. Not everybody would be smiling at that, but that's the idea. That's when I say this practice is hard, because it's like, yeah, oh my God, I have to actually look at myself and think, am I ignorant? Am I greedy? Am I angry? Like, I have to ask myself that. That's not easy to do. You got to be brave. It's an honest approach. Do I really care what other people think about me? That's at the heart of this. What is the answer to that? Do you?
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah. So, and I'm guessing you're not the only one in this room who also cares about what other people think about them, which leads to so much of our fear and our anger. So, other questions? Yeah, in the back.
Stand up. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question about the fifth aggregate, consciousness.
Yeah.
I was curious, and this is sort of just more your opinion, because I don't know if there is a genuine answer to this. I sort of don't understand if it's just the fact that we are conscious, or the fact that we are conscious of our consciousness. And leading off of that, I wanted to ask if you believe that other animals or other sentient beings have that consciousness, almost a metacognition. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on it.
I think you should clean the bathroom when we're done today. And I think you should be conscious of whether you enjoy or don't enjoy cleaning the bathroom. And I think you should be conscious of your consciousness, which is recognizing whether you enjoy or don't enjoy cleaning the bathroom, right? I'm so serious. Now, I will address that on what you might perceive as more of a Buddhist answer, even though I think what I'm about to say now is just, it's very textbook Buddhist teachings, which without applying into practical life doesn't do you much good, right? Cleaning the bathroom and recognizing what is your consciousness doing, right? And how conscious are you while you're doing it? What arises in you when you do that, that is what the practice is about. This question very specifically was the Buddhist teachings on the 5 aggregates: form, sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness. And the Buddha taught, and again, these are very kind of technical Buddhist terms, the Buddha taught that everything in our entire life is a series of these things happening: form, sensation, perception, volition, consciousness. There's a physical form, right? There's the hand. There's the hand that touches the hot flame. That's the sensation. There's a perception of it that says, wow, this is hot. There's the volition, which is the action that says, I'm going to move my hand. And then there's the consciousness that is being aware, that is driving all of that, right? The Buddha also taught about kind of the big mind, the conscious mind that is then looking down at all of those first 5 things, right? Yes, it's what he taught. And what was the second part of your question?
Well, it was mostly like, say, a dog.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm good. Yes. The answer is that, and that's when the Buddha talked about not killing, not harming, is really the teaching to not to harm to any sentient being. What he's referring to is any being with consciousness. And all animals, all insects, all bugs, all of that have that.
Do they realize on the same?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I agree that it doesn't. But
You'd have to ask them.
yeah, and that's what I mean. Is like I don't think there would be an answer.
Yeah.
But do you
Yeah, it's like when people look for answers about, what happens after death.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, great question, but yeah, and you know where the cleaning supplies are. Yeah, Cynthia, I talked too much, so we'll wrap up after this. Yeah.
I just have a question about when you tap the bell and bow 3 times.
Yes.
As you get in bed.
Yes.
What is it that you're doing, and is there something that we in protocol?
Yes.
That we would be doing?
Yes, great question. Someone asked this actually last week, and I'm glad you bring that up. So I'll close with this thought. At the beginning, so in brief, each Buddhist tradition, each lineage, each culture will do formal ritual differently, right? And so what I'm doing is what I was taught, learned, trained in a very specific Taiwanese Chan, which is Zen, Pure Land Buddhist practice. So that's what I was taught, that's what I learned, so that's what's dear to my heart, and that's what I do. I'll explain what it is in a minute. When we opened Dharma Bum Temple 13 years ago, we opened it to really pull out a lot of the ritual and the cultural barriers, the bowing, the chanting, the robes, things that we saw as kind of a revolving door. You know, if you all came in here and there was a robe hanging at the door for you to put on, and you all came up here and you bowed and chanted and did a bunch of stuff in another language, most of you wouldn't be here right now, right? So we don't necessarily share that collectively as a group to practice, but for me, it's important, right? And so what I'm actually doing, the first thing when I join Palms, to me, it's a, as my teacher used to say, she would say, it's bringing you to this present moment. This is everything in the past, this is everything in the future. But right now, I'm just going to bring my palms together, and I'm going to be present in this moment, right? And then I'm doing what's called taking refuge in the triple gem. The word refuge, safety, comfort, protection, the word refuge means different things to different people, right? The first thing is I'm taking refuge, safety, comfort, protection in the Buddha, right? The Buddha died 2,500 years ago, so he can't help you right now, right? You're on your own. But I'm taking refuge in what's called bodhicitta, which is Buddha nature, which says the Buddha was human. He woke up, he ate, he slept, he went to the bathroom, all those things, and then he died. We do all those things. Same thing, right? We too will die. So the Buddha was human. He figured out how to end his suffering. So we take refuge in the Buddha nature that's within all of us, that if this guy could figure it out, this guy, the starving, near-death Siddhartha Gautama as emaciated Buddha, in that one life could figure out how to end his suffering, then we too can figure it out. And I find that very comforting to know that I can suffer less in my life. The second thing you take refuge in is the Dharma, and that's the teachings, right? It's looking at the Four Noble Truths, the greed, the anger, the ignorance, the paramitas I always talk about, the practice of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom, right? It's bringing these teachings into your life. We find safety, comfort, protection, and knowing that if I actually practice what the Buddha taught, I'll suffer less. If I just come here and meditate for an hour and I leave, the hour was nice, but the rest of my life's going to be a mess. So I better figure out how to practice the Dharma in my life, right? And the third one is the Sangha. I take refuge in the Sangha, in the community of people. At the time of the Buddha, the Sangha was the group of people that practiced, the monks, and then the nuns, and then it became the larger community. Today, kind of modern day, we look at any group of people sitting around looking at meditation, Buddhist teachings. This is our Sangha, this is our community, right? So I find safety, comfort, protection because this community is what motivates and inspires me to practice, right? If I didn't have a part of this community, I'd be a wreck, right? So this community means as much, if not more to me than the other way around, meaning, like it really is what saves my life, is the community. So I find safety, comfort, protection in that. And then again, for me, it's kind of my middle pathway of anytime I would enter in a meditation hall, you would do a half bow, and then you would go to the Buddha and you would do 3 full bows, and then a half bow. So I do that for me, because to me, this is a formal ritual practice in my heart and my mind. And so the question of what can you do, any level of that feels right for you, but not forced. It has to feel comfortable. Somebody years ago, he always said that when I would ask people to join Palms, it made him really uncomfortable for about 2 years. He still showed up. He just didn't join palms. Didn't make any sense to him. Or if he did it, he still didn't like it. And then one day he found himself at work and he was always stressed out and angry and pissed off. And all of a sudden he noticed he joined his palms and it calmed him down. So that means more than what some ritual Buddhist thing might be, you know? And bowing for those people with problems with authority, bowing is a really wonderful thing. You know, the way our culture looks at to bow down to something. To me, when I bow, I'm bowing down and trying to find humility in this crazy, egotistical mind that causes so much suffering. So I need to humble myself. And so I'll do that multiple times every single day to remind myself to practice. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah, for sure. I used to always say, if comfortable, please join palms. But then I was like, they'll figure that out on their own. You know, they want to do it, they will. They don't, That's up to you. You know, it was this thing of like, I don't want to give people the authority to be comfort or not comfortable, but let them just choose on their own. You know. So, all right. So on that, we'll join palms and close. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to Bob Scott during his time of rebirth and to Max during his time of suffering. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace. So